The Sczaryn Dominion had mapped 9,000 star systems. Every trade lane, every drifting rock, every whisper of radiation across half a galactic arm had a name, a number, a file. So when the alarms on Watch-Station Ithrel began to scream, Fleet Commander Vasska Threl did not believe them. Unknown vessel, Commander. No transponder. No registry match. No emission signature in any database. The junior officer's voice cracked. And its velocity doesn't make sense. Explain. It's decelerating from superluminal in 11 seconds. Nothing does that. Nothing survives that. On the view screen, a pinprick of light bloomed into a streak, then a shape small, blunt, scarred along its hull like something that had been dragged through fire and lived to complain about it. It came to a dead stop 300 kilometers off the station, engines cooling in silence. Vasska had commanded the Dominion's frontier defenses for 30 cycles. She had seen Crithian dreadnoughts fold space like paper. She had watched the Ashen Concorde's living ships breathe plasma. She thought she understood what fear looked like on a bridge crew. She did not. Not yet. The ship was small, barely the size of a Dominion patrol cutter, and it bore no crest, no fleet marking, only a faded symbol of a circle wrapped around a single word in an alphabet the linguistic array couldn't parse. "Hail it!" Vasska ordered. Static. Then a voice, low and rough, speaking accented common trade before the translators had even finished calibrating. "This is the independent hauler Kestrel's debt. We're not here to start anything. Our NAV computer's fried and we're bleeding coolant. We just need somewhere to sit still for an hour that isn't the inside of a star." Vasska exchanged a look with her first officer, Dorn. Neither of them had ever heard of independent anything. Every ship in known space flew for an empire, a Concorde, a hive mind, a corporate combine. Ships belonged to someone. "Identify your governing authority," Vasska said. A pause. Then, almost amused, "Congress. Sort of. It's complicated. Look, lady, I've got a kid on this ship losing air pressure in the aft compartment, and I don't have time for a geopolitics quiz." Kid. Vasska's translator flagged the word as juvenile offspring, unarmed, non-combatant. No empire brought its young to a first contact. Word spread through the Dominion command network faster than the ship itself had crossed the void. Analysts pored over the vessel's design and found something almost insulting in its "It shouldn't have survived that jump," said Chief Engineer Pralik Voss, studying the readouts. "The drive core is a full generation behind our worst salvage. By every metric we have, this ship is a coffin that forgot to stop moving." "Then how?" Vasska asked quietly. "Is it still here?" No one had an answer, and that unanswered question sat in the room like a held breath. Dorn leaned toward her, voice low. "Commander, if this is a scouting vessel for something larger, if this Congress species is testing our response, then we respond with strength," Vasska said. But even as she said it, something in her hesitated. Strength was easy to project against warships. It felt different, aimed at a hauler full of leaking coolant and a frightened child. She opened the channel again. "Kestrel's debt, you may dock at Bay 7. Attempt nothing hostile." "Copy that," the voice said, tired and grateful in a way no soldiers ever sounded. "And thank you, really." The human who stepped off the ship was smaller than Vasska expected, built for a gravity marginally lighter than Dominion standard, with soft, exposed skin that seemed almost obscenely vulnerable. His name, he said, was Rurick Aldana, and he apologized 4 times in the first 2 minutes for the mess his ship's coolant had made of the docking clamp. Behind him came the kid. Not an infant, but a lanky adolescent with an oxygen mask still fogged from the aft compartment leak, clutching a battered mechanical toy shaped like some earth animal Vasska didn't recognize. The boy's hands were shaking, not from fear of the aliens surrounding him, from cold, simple physical cold. "She's going to be fine," Rurick said, noticing Vasska's stare, misreading it as concern rather than analysis. "Coolant leak dropped the temp back there before I sealed it. Nothing a blanket won't fix." Vasska revised her assumption. The child was female, and Rurick was not her captain by rank. He was, impossibly, her father, dragging his own offspring across a hostile void in a ship one hard landing away from a debris field. "You brought your daughter," Vasska said slowly, "into a region controlled by an empire you had never encountered." Rurick's exhausted face folded into something between a wince and a smile. "Didn't exactly plan the engine failure, Commander. But yeah, she comes with me. Always has." He glanced back at the girl, who was now watching a Dominion medic with wide, curious eyes instead of terror. Wasn't gonna leave her behind just 'cause space got scary. Vasska found she had no protocol for that answer. It was 3 hours later, while Dominion engineers helped patch the Kestrel's Det's coolant lines. An act of goodwill Vasska still wasn't certain she'd authorized so much as simply allowed, that the true anomaly revealed itself. Rurick didn't move backward. He moved forward, straight into the depressurizing corridor, hauling a support strut into position with his bare hands, holding a failing bulkhead closed with nothing but his own weight and will while he shouted for his daughter to get clear. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't augmented, armored, or trained for combat. He was, by every metric the Dominion possessed, unremarkable, and he stood in the path of vacuum itself rather than let harm reach a child. Pralik Voss, watching from the control room, whispered what half the crew was thinking. "That will kill him." It very nearly did. When Dominion engineers finally sealed the breach, Rurick collapsed, gasping, his skin bruised dark from pressure trauma. But he was smiling, because his daughter stood safe on the other side of the bulkhead, weeping not from fear now, but relief. Vasska stood over him in the medical bay long after the crisis had passed, watching Dominion physicians, soldiers of an empire that measured worth in conquest, work with unusual gentleness to save a stranger's life. "You could have died," she said finally. Rurick, weak but conscious, managed a tired laugh. "Yeah, figured. Wasn't really a decision, though. Some things you don't calculate. You just do them. You just do them." Vasska turned the phrase over in her mind like an artifact from a civilization she was only beginning to understand. The Dominion had built its power on strategy, on the cold arithmetic of strength. This species, soft-skinned, unarmored, flying ships held together by hope and stubbornness, measured itself by something else entirely. Something that didn't survive well in a database or a tactical assessment or a threat matrix. It survived in a father's hands, holding a door closed against the void. For the first time in 30 cycles of command, Vasska Threl found herself humbled not by a weapon, not by a fleet, but by the sight of one exhausted ordinary man who had simply refused to let go. And for the first time the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If the story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.